Welcome to the Immerse podcast. We are your hosts, Alex O'Keefe and Dan Ramsden.
We aim to immerse you in education via our guests, bring communities together, embrace positive change and help create solid habits that yield the path for our health and longevity.
Right, here we go.
Let's dance, shall we?
Let's dance, sir. Welcome to the Immerse podcast. We're back.
Hey.
Me and my brother Dan Ramsden. Hope everyone's good. Today, it's one of those special ones, mate, where it's just me and you.
Yes.
It's beautiful,
It's been a while, that.
It has been a while.
Hasn't it?
The last one we did where it was just me and you got very vulnerable and shared
your
own personal journey, and that really connected with a lot of people, mate. So
yeah, surprisingly.
Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it, when you're going through something, you feel like you're the only person in the world that's going through the struggle, but we're often, very similar in a lot of ways, and we hide a lot of things, and we don't generally go there until somebody's open enough to do so, and it's like, actually, I've been feeling that way too, or I've been going through something similar, and it did raise a lot of conversations, did that one, yeah, so I were quite pleased that I did that, actually. Yeah.
This one today is a one we've probably been putting off for a long time, for one reason or another. Me personally as well, I've never really properly spoken. It's more sort of me sharing my journey with alcohol today, which is a big subject, and just want to be very clear of. This is not me and you saying, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, this is right, this is wrong. This today is just me being very vulnerable, and you being vulnerable as well, again. But just to point that out to people, we're just sharing, I'm going to share my journey with alcohol today, and my journey is not right, it's not wrong, but it's my journey. And hopefully there might be one or two people that might be able to relate to how I've gone through this battle and journey with alcohol. And, if I get one person that says that resonated, I'll be happy.
I'm sure it will.
But also, actually, if no one says that, I'll still be happy.
Don't need it either way.
We don't need it. But I hope it does, resonate with someone, and I'm willing to just go wherever it needs to go today, mate. Really.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, before we go there, I want to say congratulations, because the last conversation that we had when we did this podcast, you were talking about your preparations to your High Rocks in Berlin with your man Kino.
With the Kino, yeah.
And making podium spots, so congratulations for that.
Yes, come on.
And, when we're talking about things like alcohol, it doesn't fit with that. You can't have both.
No.
I've tangled with that idea a few times, let me tell you, and I've tried to have both, and you just can't.
No.
You just can't. Not when you want to achieve something that's physical and mental, especially an endurance race. So yeah, congratulations to that.
Thank you, mate. Yeah,
we were all throwing down quite recently, weren't we? So
yeah, and yourself, you were on the podium yourself, mate, a couple of times in the last week or two. So
yeah, I like to celebrate my birthday like that now. It's a bit of a pat on the back of and a recognition of I'm really grateful for what I can still do.
Yeah,
yeah. And then just put it all out there. So
it's a great way to celebrate, mate.
Yeah, I was chuffed.
Well done, pal.
And again, like we say, when it comes to a subject like this, the two don't fit very well. So you're coming from an angle of being quite against alcohol in many ways. I'm coming from a different perspective, because I still like to have a drink, and I still socially make it fit. I enjoy the taste of it. I like earning it. I like that, that reward factor of, that's landed nice, and just feel chilled and I'm in a social environment where feels kind of nice and warm in there. Do you know what I mean? And I still do enjoy that feeling from time to time, but there's limitations to it, obviously. So I want to go back to you though, and then let's talk about you. You know, you always say it's a journey, a journey that you've had to deal with alcohol. Yeah. So let's go back to. We're often weaned on this stuff, aren't we, as kids? Yeah. If you think about it, when it comes to drugs in general, it's actually bonkers that we wean our kids on this stuff, and it's introduced to a point. We've got to live with it at the end of the day, but it's the only drug that's so accessible, and I don't think we realise how toxic it is, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Yeah. But yeah, like you say, it's always a journey, isn't it? So can you take us on that then?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was thinking about this morning, mate, and it is let's kind of go back to early days, and first of all, let's talk about the culture of the country, what we live in, because I think it is so normalised within our culture to involve alcohol in many different settings, you know, like I say, weaning as kids with it, and, you know, going and celebrating with alcohol, mourning with alcohol, and everything that's an event is involving alcohol, and that's part of the culture that we live in, and I think it's changing, but it has historically been, you know, very much, it's been a focal point of our culture, you know, binge drinking, all that type of stuff. So I just wanted to make clear as well, I think you said that I'm against it, I'm just not
for you, I mean,
for me,
not for anyone else. You don't tell anyone what to do. No,
like I say, I'm just trying to make that clear, it's not a preachy thing, but growing up, we're around it a lot. My dad was a big drinker, so that's kind of another thing in my environment that was I were around it a lot. I seen it a lot. It were normal to see my dad coming home and popping cider and beer, and it's just something you grow up with, and who are you to question that at that age when that's your normal thing? And my dad's gone on his own journey with that, and he's become, you know, he's had a lot of health issues with it in recent times, and I know that he's had a really bad struggle with it. So if you are listening to this, Dad, I love you, mate. You know, we've all gone through this journey, but there were a lot of kind of subconsciously a lot of negative things that I experienced with alcohol in early years, in terms of seeing it bring out the worst in a lot of people, including, you know, and, you know, family members, aggression, you know, verbal abuse, all this type of stuff, and I think that plays a part in my decisions that I make nowadays, the really early stuff. And then I guess you get to that age where you start dabbling yourself. 14, 15 year old, and you start actually going down to the park, not particularly with your parents' consent, but you start going there, you start going to get a fucking, standing outside the shop and can you go in for me, mate, and get a bottle of White Lightning or whatever. So, and that was just normal again, wasn't it, Dan? That's totally. Kind of, a lot of people have grown up in these kind of small towns where we're all from, and that's just normal. So I'm just trying to think of where we can go from there, but
I think one thing that we spoke about a bit earlier were your own identity, and we often try to people please all the way through life, you know.
Yeah.
But I think it comes to the point where that people pleasing side of it is detrimental. One of the things is trying to fit in. You know, it's the square peg in the circle. It's just not quite fitting, but you're trying to make it fit. And I mean that in a sense of your environment, people that you're knocking around with.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, your social circles are so much bigger when you're younger, and you can end up attracting a different kind of energy that you were like, are these my friends? Are they not my friends? You know what I mean? And you're trying to fit into this world, and alcohol can sometimes just be a complete force, and that has definitely been something that I have been guilty of for sure, like just force drinking to try fit into this unusual atmosphere. And then thinking, what am I doing this for, you know? And I think that's something that you've spoken about recently, is being there and not feeling like you're fitting in, but forcing the situation.
Yeah, I think when you're around that age, you don't particularly have choice of who your circle is. I think you're more, this is your circle, and make sure you try and fit into that circle. You know, I don't know about you, Dan, but you don't have as much of a conscious decision to spend your time with. I think that comes a bit later in life, or it did for me anyway. You know, in terms of consciously choosing who you spend your time with a bit more.
Why do you think that is?
Because for me, I didn't really know who I was at that stage. So at that time, you're just like, oh, I want to be associated with these guys. These are, you know, who I think I should be with. So let's try and mould myself into that. So that were the early sort of the start of it, really, where I had a big phase of my life where I were just trying to fit into a particular type of group of people. And deep down, I always knew that it wasn't me, but I didn't know anything else. So at that time, I'm just like, people are going for a drink. All right, yeah, I'll go drink. And I never liked the taste of alcohol.
Right.
Never. I still don't to this day. But what it was for me back then was a tool that I could lean into that made me fit into a group. And that's all it was. I never liked it. I never liked alcohol.
Right.
Deep down. And looking back now, you know, when you'd go to a pub on a Friday, so everyone finishes on a Friday, everyone goes to a pub, and that's just a social where you might just go and have 1 or 2 pints. And sometimes, a lot of the time, I'd get a J2O if I wasn't going out that night. But now looking back and just thinking, like, I clearly never liked it. And coming back to like that sort of peer pressure thing, it were difficult to do that, because every time I got a J2O and everyone else had got a pint, you'd open yourself up to some hammers, wouldn't you? So, you know, pansy and all this type of stuff. But that were coming towards the back end, that really, when I started to obviously come away from it. But yeah, like going back to the fitting in type thing, it's always just been a tool for me, mate, to mould myself into something that I actually really wasn't.
And is it something that you were doing too often as well?
Yeah.
So you were just masking how you were feeling and
constantly,
doing it
mate.
every weekend?
Every weekend.
All
Multiple
weekend?
times a weekend. Yeah.
Right, so Friday, Saturday,
Sunday.
Right.
Probably normally Thursday. I'll tell you what, people that are local will understand this. Thursday nights in Halifax were the student night. So
more you drink, more you save.
Yeah. We're going back to a time here when we were all like at sixth form college, and there used to be a club called Lush, and it was brilliant. Loved the music, but you could literally pay 10 quid and drinks all night. So that's what we had, and going to Acapulco, 75p a drink, getting absolutely blottoed. That used to be the routine. Drink till the thing is with me, Dan, we're always extreme.
Never.
I don't believe it. So, like I say, multiple times in a weekend, be Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and I'd always want to be the last one out. I'd want to be sun's coming up. I'll go to latest club till we all get kicked out, and that's what I were doing every single weekend.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to you in sauna one, and I just said I keep having flashbacks of that younger version of myself, where it's 6 o'clock in the morning, sun's just starting to come up, and I'm just walking streets, absolutely out of my mind. Whatever else comes with alcohol as well, cocaine, all that type of stuff. That we're all in there as well. But I just remember thinking, I were just unconscious, completely unconscious in the moment, and like going a bit deeper, like spiritually as well, just unconscious. And I just keep having flashbacks of seeing myself walking down the street at 6 o'clock in the morning. Just didn't know what fucking day it was. And I just want to go over to him and just go, "Fuck, what are you doing, man? Come out of it."
Yeah. It's part of being young though, isn't it? Not knowing yourself.
It is,
like you say, everything does come down to a journey. What were the tipping point for you? So that's you then. So what's got you to a place now where, how long have you been teetotal now?
I don't like using the word teetotal, Dan.
You don't drink no more?
I don't drink no more. But I think there's like connotations around teetotal where it's like you're putting yourself on a pedestal type thing. And I don't think it is that. I've not had a drink for about probably my 30th birthday, I think it was.
Right.
So 3 years ago. And we had a fucking Jess threw a party for me, and all my pals were there, and it was great. But since then, it's not been like a pivotal moment. It's been a lot of moments and a lot of reflection.
Okay.
And then I've just come to a point where I'd gone to like drinking every weekend, the DJing side, which we can talk about, and then drinking went to ad hoc every quarter, or a wedding, and now it's got to. I just don't do it anymore at all. That's where it's kind of come over a long period of time.
I think what I'm reading into it is that you depended on it.
Yes.
As a tool to fit in and to feel, I don't know, valued or heard and seen, whatever. And then, I guess what that comes down to me is confidence, and it's something that I've struggled with.
Yeah.
And if somebody's listening to this and they're like, yeah, I think I do that, and I'm quite low on confidence and I feel a bit uncomfortable in certain environments, the only way to do that is to overcome yourself and have a bit more self-reflection. And I think people are a lot more are woken up to their own consciousness now, in comparison to me growing up as a teenager, and mental health and discussions. One of the biggest statistics on alcohol particularly is men suffer with alcoholism more than females. Because why? Because we don't talk.
Yeah.
And we haven't done historically. So we try and deal with all our problems ourselves and then use that as a tool to escape the reality.
Yeah.
And I did that. And I'll own up to it as well. I've done that even when I was going through my divorce. I were leaning into it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, I were having one-man parties at home.
Yeah.
On the decks.
Yeah.
Just to get myself out of my mind and out of my current situation because it didn't feel nice. And I found myself doing that. And this is a guy who's talking about how to be healthy and stay in shape all year round and all this. And I found myself going there. So I'm not in any way, you know, pointing the finger and telling people not to do it. But I think it just comes down to a lot of self-reflection, doesn't it? Like you said before, and thinking about, like, I don't need this anymore. I don't need you to control me anymore.
That's it. That's exactly it, mate. It were, at one point in my life, it was a part of my personality. Something that I literally relied on. I remember going to, you know, we'd be at pub or whatever, and I'd be getting that sort of, and I'm not saying that, you know, the lads that I were hanging about with were bad lads. They were great lads. But they'd be like, is Al coming out tonight? And I knew what Al they were talking about. Not this one that's sat here right now. Because,
He's fun, that guy.
Yeah.
Frank the Tank style.
Yeah. So it were like, it was a part of my personality. And it's part of my personality what other people wanted to see. So it were always like, all right, oh yeah, they want to see it. Right, let's go there. But then, over time, like I say, it was definitely a confidence thing. Because, like, if people don't like who you are without needing alcohol, then, you know, that should be their problem, not your own. But like I say, it takes a long time to unpack all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And not needing to rely on it to, I guess it's the journey. It is the journey of the self-development and discovering who you actually are. And what I have discovered now is who I actually am doesn't involve alcohol. So when I've discovered that alcohol's not a part of who I am now, that's when it had to go. It's not who I am. I don't need it. I don't need to rely on it. It's probably a bit of an ego thing of me saying I don't need you. It used to rule a part of who I was, and now I don't need it. I'm good.
That's good.
I'm fun.
You are. And
I'm okay.
And I want to say this as well. We've been close now for a couple of years. We've known each other for a while, but close friends and business partners. So we've had a lot of time together. We speak on the phone almost daily.
Yeah.
How many times have me and you gone on Smash? Not once. We've had loads of fun.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's got to come into it as well, hasn't it? You know, your environments and your social circles. It's sort of accepting that, you know, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do it to the extent that I have been doing it.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, you know, and we'll get into the nitty gritty of the science stuff a bit later, but it's one of the most toxic drugs that's out there.
Yeah.
And there's many health implications that come with it. And dosage is a problem with anything. The dose is the poison. I always say it with nutrition. Yeah, always. And it's the same with this. Can we control the dose? I want to now sort of share where I'm at with it.
Yeah.
I still drink, and what I surprisingly do is I drink a little bit more frequent than I used to do. So if I go back to my 20s and 30s, when I'm still highly triggered by my mum's death because it was so sudden and it was so aggressive, and I thought your whole world can be flipped upside down in blink of an eye. And we're very precious, and you think that you're just going to live forever sometimes, and you always think that, oh, my mum and dad will watch their grandkids grow up and all that sort of stuff, and that didn't happen. So I were like a bit more health anxious, if you like. And what I used to do is I'd go for months of being a bit of a preachy arsehole.
Yeah.
You know, everything were uber clean. And then get absolutely tanked because I'd still not lost that part of me as well, that rugby social part of me, and then I'd go out and and it'd almost be like another challenge of how much can I drink, and it were almost like a pat on the back of how much you got through. You know, and some people do brag about it, you know, talk about how many pints they've sunk and stuff, and it's a badge of honour.
Yeah, it is a badge of honour,
and it's just like actually thinking about that it's insane. It is insane.
But when you're in it, it's fun. It's normal, isn't it? It's, if you're not questioning that, it's just normal. It's weird.
Yeah.
Really weird.
And like Cruz said the other week, you know, he said if someone were to say that they had a pill and they were like, here, take this pill, and it'll make you, you know, you'll have bad decisions. You might throw up. You'll be staggering all over the place. You'll forget what's happened. You might waste a load of money. Do you want it? And the question is no. You know, you won't want it. So what I try to do now is avoid the binge side of me, because I do have that. That there is that part of me still in there. So what I do is I drink a little bit more frequently. And on let's say it's a Saturday night, I might have a glass of wine, or I might have a couple of beers. Last weekend, so it was my birthday, one of my pals came round. I had 4 Peronis, so that's like the equivalent of 2 pints, and I had a glass of rum and coke. We played on decks for about 4 hours, and I were in an absolute like pig in shit. Loved it. I had a date with my daughter arranged for the next day. We were shopping all day, so I had that in the back of my mind. I like to do that because that's controlling me as well. And it's like, right, I've enjoyed myself. I appreciate the moment. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to hydrate. I'm going to bang an electrolyte in. I'm going to have a little bit of food, and then I'm going to get a reasonably early night, and then I'm going to wake up the next day and I'm not going to be absolutely hanging. And that's where I'm at with it. So it's about, like anything, innit? It's having a bit more control of yourself, and everything comes down to discipline at the end of the day. You're super disciplined to not at all, and I'm disciplined in a way that I control how much.
I think it probably takes more discipline to do it how you do it.
Do you think?
Yeah, I have that battle in my head where I'm thinking I'd rather be able to have a healthy sort of middle ground with it, like what you do.
Why?
But then again, no, I don't. I keep having a bit of a tangle up in my head.
Because you have alluded to that a couple of times. You're like, one day we'll have a few drinks and play on decks. And I'm like, why don't we just play on decks? Because I know that I don't want you to feel like you're forced into that. And I'm sure we'd have a great time, either way. Yeah, we would. We would. And going back to the DJing days, were it a bit too? Were that too hard as well?
Yeah. So when
has that triggered you in terms of I don't like this, like who you were becoming?
Yeah. I think for people that don't know, I basically were like DJing full time for probably 4 or 5 years, and that involved touring around the country and even internationally. That kind of just took off. That took off like quicker than we imagined. Me and my mate Gaz formed a duo, started making tunes after work, and then ended up getting signed to labels and everything. It just went mad. So it were an awesome experience. But that's why I can reflect and look back on it now and just be grateful what I experienced in that time. But in terms of alcohol, this is like synonymous with the music industry as well. But
yeah,
you know, if you're in that environment a lot of the time and you're not drinking, you are the odd one out, and you're not taking drugs and all this type of stuff. We used to get booked to play at an event, and you'd get what's called a rider. So the promoter who's booking you would say, "What do you both drink?" So I used to get greeted to every set with a bottle of Grey Goose vodka, and Gaz would get a bottle of Jack Daniels. And then a little sketchy fella would pop up from behind and give you a bag each, or whatever it was. Well, that were it. That were the norm. So, and you're playing multiple gigs in a night sometimes, travelling all over the UK, and every time you land at a gig, you're greeted with a bottle of alcohol, and you're expected to be there and be the fucking life of the party. So that were another kind of
you live fast and die young like
absolutely,
that, don't you?
mate. And I saw,
'cause it's the late nights that come with it and everything else.
It's the alcohol, the drugs, the lack of sleep, the everything else that comes with it, mate. It's a tough environment to be in.
Do you think you can do it and be healthy? I'd like to speak to a DJ about this.
I think there's guys like people who know that scene that I were from, like the house music, and there's a guy called Patrick Topping who's openly now come out to say that he's sober and he's not drinking anymore. And I think it only takes one or two big names in a scene like that which could start a bit of a domino effect and take the pressure off a lot of people. So I'm glad to see. But when I were in that scene, there weren't really much of that going on at all, and it were all just living 1,000 miles per hour. And I was probably like mid to late 20s at that point, probably 6-7 years ago, and I just what I was grateful for the DJ for the DJ, the music industry, was I proved to myself that I'm capable of doing amazing things when I'm passionate about something and I go all in on it. So when I got that evidence, and then I started my window cleaning business while I was still DJing, because I wanted that flexibility. So I'm kind of in two different worlds. The one of personal growth, starting a business, I was back playing non-league football again. So it's like there's two different worlds. I'm staying out till 6 or 7 o'clock from a set.
So you've got to wean yourself out of that.
So that's where the transition was, and the two worlds just didn't meet for me.
Yeah,
and
I've like I said to you before, I've been there where it's been like you can't have both.
No. Yeah.
I've tried it and done an all day session and got absolutely steaming, and then I'm rocking up on Monday morning and I'm trying to hit some goals with my fitness. It's like, no mate, it's just not going to do that. And obviously the older that I'm getting, the more I realise that I really can't do that, and the more I have to control my dose, because it's so detrimental. And again, like I've said before, we'll come to that, and then you can draw your own conclusions then on it. But for sure, if you want to be a better version of yourself in your physical health, your mental health, and if you're trying to build something, the two worlds don't often come together.
I think it was the kind of acceleration of when I was DJing that were probably that coming up towards the final straw of it for me, because here I am again leaning on it, because if I didn't get behind the decks and I'd not had a drink, I'd feel a bit weird.
Same.
I'd feel a bit stiff.
Yep.
And I'd feel a bit anxious. But if I had a few pints, I'd be fucking, come on, stood on decks.
I know, it's weird, isn't it?
But sometimes, mate,
because I'm with you on that.
Stood in front, like we're playing in front of sold out crowds, mate. Thousands of people on occasions. And just something to take that bit of an edge off of the anxiety, of the nerves. And again, I were leaning on that. And anyone that's have you seen the Avicii documentary?
Yeah.
Amazing, what a guy.
Sad.
One of my fucking icons, by the way, that I looked up to.
Very sad.
Very, very sad. But
he was a people pleaser, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Just couldn't say no.
He spoke about it on that, and I related to him, obviously not on the scale of what he were at, but he was saying it was part of his ritual, really, to have a drink before he got up on stage.
But what were the overriding factor with him as a character?
Introvert.
He lacked confidence.
Confidence. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Coming back to that.
Confidence. It is a big thing. Yeah.
So it's a crutch, isn't it?
Yeah.
For a lot of people.
Yeah.
Do you know what one of the things that helped me personally get over myself? That's what I call it. Just get over yourself. And I started doing live videos. I started doing the podcast that I was doing with our Matthew, and went on live telly.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're not confident. You better fucking get confident then. Like, force yourself to pretend you're confident if you don't feel it until you feel comfortable with it. It's like anything, get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of a way to kick the can down the road, isn't it? If you don't feel confident, here's something that's going to make me feel confident for a short period of time.
It's
Synthetically.
It's the easy way out, isn't it?
Easy way out, yeah. But so definitely were a confidence issue for me.
I do get that though with the DJing side of it. In terms of just feeling a little bit looser.
Yeah.
For sure. Do feel a bit stiff and like, I don't know if my ears are working tonight. Do you know what I mean? I can't even hear this beat.
Yeah.
So I definitely get that. But also, I've DJ'd at a 40th party. Really good night. Drove my car. Set up. I was drinking Corona Zeros. And I kept my thumb over the zero, so nobody questioned it, because I couldn't be asked explaining that I wasn't drinking. Played until about 1 o'clock. Had a really good time. Really good time. And then I packed up and I took myself off and I drove home, and that felt like a real win. Yeah, it really did, because I had a fantastic night with great people, and then I went home, drove, and woke up absolutely sound next morning. Yeah. So, I think it's just about that as well, isn't it? Just proving to yourself that you don't need it. Yeah. In different ways. Yeah. It takes a hell of a lot of work to get there, doesn't it? And well, I don't know, because I'm not there. I've gone months. So genuinely for you, Dan, why do you still drink then? Social interaction. I often find that it brings out conversations and that lack of rigidness in somebody. Yeah. So I guess there's a people pleaser in me as well, and I do it for the vibe. Because I know that some people struggle to open up, for example. Yeah. But then you get a couple of drinks down them, and there's a different kind of conversation that's flowing, and I enjoy that. And some of the best people that I know are still drinking and stuff. Yeah. So I like to get into that little vibe with them, but also just be mindful of how much I'm putting in, and it doesn't happen a lot. No. But I used to go months and months without touching a drop, and I often set goals for competitions and things like that, so that keeps me in the game, you know. And I've got a responsibility to my community and the message that I put out there. I can't be fucking living like that. So I don't.
Yeah.
But every now and then I do like to have a drink. I like the taste of it. I like earning it. You know, getting to a point where it's like you get your first one and you're like, that's nice.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with it though. I don't get to the point where I'm making really stupid decisions. I used to do. I used to get absolutely steaming. And so then that's why I had to go for a bit of time without relying on it at all. But now I'm in that place where, you know, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I enjoy a couple.
Yeah.
And I see it as a little bit of a weird way to reward myself, which is really fucked up, but but still, we've all got some sort of crutch, I think.
Yeah.
We've all, you know, a vice.
Yeah.
Some people like eating chocolate.
Yeah.
Some people smoke. Whatever it is.
And let's be honest, like I've clearly got that vice of like with coffee. So like what you say, them sort of conversations that you do have with people, that's what coffee does for me. I'll sit and go for a coffee with yourself or with some other pals, and I know that the conversation's gonna go somewhere where, you know, deeper.
Well, it's high energy as well, isn't it?
It's high energy.
Because you're on a stimulant.
Yeah, but obviously I've probably just swapped alcohol for coffee. And the net positive for me is I'm allowed to be myself. I have a lot deeper conversations, and you still get a bit of a buzz from it, don't you?
Yeah.
And you don't get that, you know, if you do it right, you don't crash, you don't, you know, you're not hungover, all that type of stuff.
You can be though if you get your dose wrong.
Yes, yeah, like anything. If you go a bit silly on it, but I just wanted to touch on kind of what's happened with me relationship wise since I've stopped drinking. Since alcohol is now not a part of my personality, the connections and relationships that I have with people are the strongest that they've ever been. I put that down to alcohol, but also a lot of other things. But alcohol's definitely a part of that.
In what way?
Because now I'm not trying to be someone else by drinking.
This character, this facade.
I'm not trying to be a character. Like what you see with me now is who I am, truly. And I'm not trying to fit in. I'm not trying to fit in with a particular group or an environment. I'm just who I am, and I do things that I love genuinely. You know, the fitness space, the podcast with you, business, everything, going out for food, all that type of stuff. And I think when I come to that realisation, I've now got the best connections that I've ever had in my life. You know, before, it's a bit of a silly way to judge things, but I'd never been asked to be a groomsman or a best man right up until 12 months ago, and now I've been asked to be best man by my mate Dan Keane and my brother, and it's all just kind of come, the real connections of that are in my life right now are the strongest ever, and it's because I am not trying to be someone that I'm not.
Yeah, and that's nice.
That's one of the best things, really, like the relationships now that I have, much clearer thoughts and conversations. I used to think I was dumb, and I believe that the alcohol played a part in that as well, dumbing me down.
Well, yeah.
I really do believe that. I didn't have clarity of thought, couldn't have like conversations like what we're having now. I just wouldn't have been able to go there. So that's some of the pros really that have come from me stopping drinking.
Well, that's a pretty good reason to stay that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it? Because ultimately that's what we crave as humans, isn't it?
Yeah.
We crave connection. That's, people talk about success and stuff like that a lot. And success to me is how you're feeling inside. And if you feel connected to other people where you're working towards something, or something resonates with you and you bounce off them, and you can genuinely laugh, or you genuinely feel that person without any other thing involved in it. That's the way, innit?
Exactly. And lo and behold, I've met my wife at this later stage. Jess, I think she's gone on a journey with it herself. She doesn't really drink anymore, and she's kind of finding her own little tribe as well. And obviously we've got our beautiful Bodhi, and I think that played a big part as well. There's just loads of little things, that have kind of totaled up in my mind, and thinking, some of the stuff I encountered growing up around alcohol, I really don't want that for Bodhi. I don't want her to grow up in that environment, and any other children that we may have. Yeah. I just don't. I don't want that to be the environment for my children. Yeah,
I remember feeling, and it didn't feel good, and it still stands out to me. I was going through some stress, right, and I was playing some music, and the whiskey was just flowing a little bit too much. Yeah, and the kids were in the house. And by the way, I'm not a bad drunk. I don't swear. I don't carry on. I'm not violent. I'm not a bad drunk. No. But I was drunk to the point where I was like, eyes were gone. Yeah. And I even knew it at the time. I was like, wow, like you've drunk too much here. Yeah. And then I remember waking up the next day, and I felt rough as toast. And Poppy went, "You were steaming last night." That did not feel good. Didn't like that. And I'm like, nah, you need to sort your shit out here, mate. Like, that's not a good message. And, it's not to berate myself, but I just don't want my kids to think that that's all right as well. Do you know what I mean? It's just not. Like, what were I doing? But I was in a fair bit of stress at the time. And, again, I'm not judging anybody else who does this. I'm not judging anyone who drinks around the kids. No. I were around it my whole childhood. Yeah. A lot of drinking in my family. So, I ain't judging anyone by that, but it didn't feel good, and I thought, no, I don't want my daughter saying that to me again. No. So. No, exactly. Yeah. It's just reminded me of a quote that I heard, mate, and it's talking about childhood, what you experience through childhood, and with parents as well. And you can go two ways. You can consciously decide to do the opposite, or subconsciously just go along with what you experienced in childhood. And I think, and I'm not saying I had a bad childhood, but the environment were questionable sometimes, in terms of involving alcohol. And I think a part of me has consciously said, I don't want that. And this is where it stops. You've got a family, haven't you, now?
This is where it stops, yeah. And that's my experience with it.
Fair play, mate. And I respect your decision, and I will never try to force that upon you either. We will have a night on the decks, and we don't have to drink.
It's all right.
But we're not having coffee either, because it'll be probably too late.
Come on, we're not over.
No, I've got a curfew for that shit. I want to talk about the fours.
Okay.
Why people keep leaning into it, why people keep using it, and some reasons why I use it. Yeah. So I'm going to go for and against here.
Okay.
It appears that the against seems to stack up a little bit heavier.
Okay.
So okay. I'll go through it anyway. So it is a socialising tool, and it's something that I've just spoken about.
Probably the biggest one. That.
Yeah.
I'd say. Yeah.
So it helps to relax people and take them out of the busy mind. You know, if they've got busy minds, they've got a lot of stress, a lot of pressure at work, whatever. Yeah. It's just a way of escaping it for an hour or two. Yeah. I've personally had some of my best memories. If I reflect on some of the funniest tales that I've got in my locker, you know, alcohol's been involved on a few occasions. Yeah. So, you know, it's definitely... Agree. Yeah, I would agree. There's been some funny stuff. I won't go there. It can bring out deep and meaningful conversations. Like I mentioned earlier, some people struggle to have the ability to let themselves go and be vulnerable, and I think it does help some people bring down go there. A bit of a barrier. Yeah, you know, and I think if you're controlling it, like we looked at the Blue Zones, didn't we, a few months back, and people that have got the oldest residents in the area. Sardinia is one of the places where people often meet up and have a glass of wine in their community. You know, and what comes of that is bringing people together. Connection, yeah. Like sport does. Sport brings people together. Yeah. You know, and alcohol can bring people together, and it can be sometimes the focal point of a ritual or something. Yeah. But
a quick one on that. Jess is my wife. Her mum and stepdad. I was talking to a stepdad, Chris, and he was telling me about this group of people that moved to East Coast and is connected with this group of people, and they're all at the local pub. But that's where they've and I just kind of zoomed out for a moment, and I just thought it's no different to me finding a group of people that are in fitness or that are at a coffee shop. It's people that you have you're like-minded in whatever way, and you're coming together and you're connecting. And obviously it's in a pub, so you're drinking, but if you zoom out, it's still people finding the tribe in whatever way that might be. And I just thought it's an interesting concept.
We're all the same, aren't we? We all need to connect.
Whatever it is, whatever brings you together, then, you know, it's different for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just, is it becoming toxic? That's the thing. You know, are you doing things that are a bit out of the norm for you, and does it feel right? And are you stretching the boundaries? Is the dose out of line? You know, there's many other things that come of it. And another thing that can be a flaw is it can improve a couple's sex life. You know, like some people feel, again, a little bit rigid. Like if I'm on decks and I've not had loads of people looking at you, and it's like sometimes that helps to soften the blow a little bit, and that can happen with a couple as well, and help to break some barriers. So that's another flaw. Can be seen as that. Yeah, it can bring out the wild beast, can't it? Yeah, again, like... Bring out bottom drawer. Whatever's in there. And then we've got the against. So it's highly toxic for the liver. Some of this information, by the way, is from the World Health Organizations and examine.com, and there's other sites that have been referred to in this. The liver cannot hold it, so it's going to push it through the system, and it's highly toxic. So the ethanol is highly toxic, so the liver does not want it in there, and it'll bypass anything else to deal with it. So your body goes into this mode of stop what you're doing and get out. And for anyone that'll find this useful when you're drinking, is you will go for a wee at some point, and it'll be a beast of a wee. Yeah. So at that point, it's a really smart idea to get some water in you. And I get stick for it all the time. Yeah. Is that the breaking the seal type thing? Or? Yeah. And when you do that, it's a really good move to hydrate again. Because it's the dehydration that's one of the worst things about being hungover. Obviously, your kidneys are going to be working harder as well, and it's putting a lot of strain on those organs. They're mostly calorie dense. So anybody who wants to be in better shape, look better, have a better body composition, then those calories are not useful like at all. And the calories going in, and sometimes people don't see the damage in terms of the calorie intake. You know, for instance, a pint of Stella is about 250 calories. So some people will put 4 pints away, no problem, and just have a steady-ish night.
1,000 calories.
1,000 calories right there. And then what's going in after that? Other food choices and whatnot. Your
Doner kebab.
Your guard tends to slip, making bad decisions in lots of different ways, and food will be one of them. So the calorie intake that happens around alcohol, and this is where a lot of people are getting it wrong when it comes to body composition and staying in shape, is they do work week dieting, so they'll undereat and restrict calories Monday to Thursday, and then the beers will start coming out and it'll start flowing, and you won't be registering how many calories are going in through alcohol alone.
Yeah.
But then because blood sugar levels are starting to dip, your electrolyte balance is out because you've weed everything out. You will consume a hell of a lot more calories, and that might happen for the full weekend for some people. So for 3 days of the week, you're getting a huge spike in calories from alcohol, and then from food that you're eating as well, foods that you wouldn't normally be leaning into.
Never thought about it like that, you know, because you do get to that point where when you've had a few drinks, you're hungry, aren't you?
Yeah, blood sugars drops, that's why.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's what's happening there. It sedates you instead of promoting sleep. So you're unconscious, you're not deep sleeping, and the amount of units of alcohol that you've consumed will impact that even further. Some people can bypass a whole night sleep. So if you've had a certain amount, and then let's say you go to bed at 3 a.m. and you wake up at 8, you might just not have even slept, and then that's why the extreme tiredness can kick in, and the brain fog. And if you're not having meaningful conversations, it's because you're really tired. You know what I mean? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're just trying to find your feet again, and you're sort of dragging your ass around life. You're not doing anything well, are you? You're not training well. You're not doing business well. You're not communicating well. You're just getting through life. So yeah, that's another one from having a negative one, a negative amount of alcohol. It's decreasing insulin sensitivity, so again that's really bad for body composition. The amount of body fat that you'll carry around your sides and your back, and then how your body is dealing with other calories can be disrupted from that. It's going to impact your testosterone, so that's going to tank. You're going to absolutely flatline your testosterone. Again, bad for training for performance, bad for sports specific goals and health in general.
Fertility?
Well, yeah, because if it's smashing your testosterone, it's not going to be good for a man, especially when your testosterone's on the down from age 30, depending on what you're doing and how you're living. You know, your natural levels start to drop off a little bit, so you've got to be more mindful of keeping that plate spinning. So yeah, it will impact that as well. You can make other decisions, such as other drugs.
Yes.
So if
I can relate to that one.
You know, a lot of people do that. You know, that's like the starting point, and then other drug use will come off the back of it. So I'm
come through this gate here.
I'm not judging, guys. You know, we've all been there.
We've all done it.
Yeah. Some people become aggressive and have a scrap on a night out.
Yeah.
An interesting one that we spoke about with James Collier. It's the third most toxic drug in terms of what it's doing to the body. Heroin, number 1. Number 2, crack cocaine. Number 3, alcohol. Frightening.
That's just mind-blowing, isn't it?
Frightening.
And this is legally pushed on the shelves.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's how it's normalised and marketed and things like that. It can play a role in 200 diseases.
Wow. Increase the chance of it.
Yeah, including anxiety and depression.
Big one.
Yeah, I'll just let that one sink in for a little second. 200.
Just repeat that one again.
It can play a role in over 200 diseases, including anxiety and depression. You are escaping your reality. So if you're doing it more often, I would question your reality. Are you know, is everything okay? Like your family, your work-life balance, your stress levels, being on purpose and on point, and what feels right. Is it all fitting, or are you escaping? That's always the question. And it contributes to, on average, 3 million deaths a year globally.
Fuck yeah.
It's quite a lot. It's a serious subject for some people as well, you know.
A hell of a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alcoholism, addiction, but also what comes off the back of it. Even, you know, some people that they think they're okay. They get into a car, they crash the car.
Yeah.
Or they get into a fight.
Yeah, it's like the
decision.
follow on from. I'd be interested to see the stats of if that 3 million's purely alcohol, as in it's damaged the body, but then it's like what decisions are made from alcohol.
It's alcohol induced situations.
Right, okay.
Like a car crash or a fight that's gone wrong, or
jumping off a balcony and all this type of stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, so it's a serious thing, and anyone can have a decline. And if anybody's struggling, I would say just get the help that you need. You know, have the courage to get the help, whether it's counselling or, you know, whatever it is. Speak to professionals, speak to like-minded people that are not going to judge, and get it out. It's trapped wind. If you've got a problem, get it out.
Yeah, and
talk about it.
Yeah. While we're on that, if someone's listening and they have related to some of the stuff that I've said, where you're feeling like you're leaning on it, in terms of it being a part of your personality, or you're just trying to fit into a group, or just know that it's possible to, like, just, you don't need it. You don't need it. And it takes courage to actually speak that out with the culture that we live in and the peer pressure. But just know that you'll be absolutely fine, and just be who you actually are. You don't need it if it's having that negative impact on you.
Yeah, have
the courage. Or come and if you need to reach out to anyone, reach out to professionals. But if you need to message me, I'm happy to talk to anyone who's in that position and just give, you know, some sort of words or whatever. Happy to talk to anyone.
Nice. I have a friend who has not drunk alcohol for a few years now, and it brought out the beast in him, you know, in terms of lack of control and, you know, like extreme behaviour. Yeah. So he chose it one for him, and he also went to Munich Beer Festival with his partner, and neither of them are drinking.
That's a bit of a mad one, isn't it?
So they said, why did I choose to do this?
Yeah.
And he said, because I wanted to have a good time and soak up the atmosphere.
Right.
And he said, but what I noticed while we're there is people have a problem with that drug that you're not using.
It's, like I say,
other people have the problem.
It's the only drug where you're made to feel bad if you're not taking it.
Yeah.
What the fuck? What's all that
It's
about?
actually crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know, that's something else to maybe reflect on if you've got other people that are pushing it. You know, if you're on a health goal, you're wanting to lose a few more kilos and get in the best shape that you want to be in, alcohol's not going to fit in that. Whenever I've got a goal for my health, alcohol's number one out. gone. If I'm training for an event or if I want to, you know, really improve my physique, it's got to go for many reasons, not just for the calories, for all the other reasons that I've just mentioned there. Yeah. So, yeah, good luck digesting all of that. And I'm not judging anybody who does, because I still do it myself.
Yeah. It's good to have both of us from that perspective, Dan, where, you know, I've chosen not to involve it in my life anymore, and I've stated the reasons why, but you still do, and you seem to have a, you know, healthy relationship with it. So that's great. It's great to hear that. But hopefully people have, you know, resonated with both of us on this one, and hopefully people can, take out of that what they will. Yeah,
that's it.
It's been a good one, that, Dan.
Yeah, I've enjoyed that. and I'd say that if you want to take something tangible from it, I'd just say get a goal and make sure your actions are aligning with it. So does it fit? Does going out and getting smashed fit with the goal that you've just set for yourself? Yes or no? Often for me, no. So I don't tend to do it as much. Yeah. Or I at least control my amount to the point where I'm not getting hungover. Yeah. And I just try to stay in that lane where I'm picking a goal and I'm working towards it, because I generally feel happiest in myself when I'm working towards goals. It's not the goal itself or the achievement of getting something, it's the build up to it. Yeah, definitely. Is where I generally feel at my happiest. Same. So if anybody wants to take anything from that, I'd say get a goal. Because of the person you're going to become through the process, not the outcome. There we go. Thanks, Dan. Enjoyed that, mate. Thanks for giving me this space. I've never spoke about it in this type of way before. So thank you, mate. Thanks for guiding us through that. Yeah, well done on where you're at with it as well. That's it. It's a strong mind and a strong person to be able to do that. So respect. It takes a lot of courage to be yourself in today's world, like we've already spoke about. And I just hope that me talking like this so openly has potentially given the light to someone else. Your turn, brother or sister. Nice. Thanks for listening, guys. Cheers, guys. See you soon. See you soon. Nice, mate. Thank you, mate. And quick, before we go, please subscribe on Spotify and YouTube. And if you've got any questions around our saunas, then please get in touch, because we've got off to a great start with the saunas, Dan, and we're eager to keep providing these awesome saunas to people in the world as well. Yeah, well, you know, we're aligning with the health thing. We haven't done as much sort of pushy sales, particularly on the podcast, because we want to try to keep that as organic as we can, and we're doing it from the passion of health. But guess what? The sauna will really help your health, you know. It really will. Yeah, you know, absolutely. we're not selling something that's not useful. So that's why it feels good to us as well, isn't it? Exactly, mate. It's perfectly aligned with us now. And if anyone's interested, got any questions on that, we make everything in the UK, in Yorkshire, at a workshop in Halifax, all locally sourced materials. And whether it's for yourself, your family, a business, have a look. Visit the website. You can find it on our Instagram page at Immerse the Brand. The link's in there. So, there we go. Sweat out those toxins. Sweat out the toxins and leave your phone at the door. Go connect. Let's leave it there. Raw human connection. There we go. All right. Nice one, guys. Thank you. Nice one.